We've been looking at the situation in the main receivers of Syrian refugees. I'm talking about the countries bordering on Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, Iraq. We did nothing on Israel, of course, because no Syrian refugee tried to reach Israel. And in these four countries, we tried to conduct surveys about the situation of the refugees themselves, the history of the move from Syria to that country, but also the way people are received, are accepted or not accepted in the country, the sort of problem that can emerge as a result of the refugee movement. And these problems are very, very specific to each country. The problems in Jordan are not the problems in Lebanon, not the problems in Iraq, not the problem in Turkey. In addition to that, we've done a sort of stock-taking exercise in the European Union. Where are we today? What is the situation in Europe regarding this crisis? How did the European Union respond to the crisis in terms of taking some refugees, in terms of trying to design some programs to respond to the situation closer to the field itself in the countries neighboring on Syria. We must compare the current refugee crisis in Syria with what happened before. I'm not going to go back to the Lebanese-Syrian crisis, which was big. Between 1975 and, let us say, 1989, Lebanon was a country from where massive movement of refugees were leaving to Syria. Syria was the first destination country. Cyprus was another one. But at that time, European countries, and in particular France, were very open to refugees from Lebanon. Other crises happened. The Algerian refugee crisis was quite big during all of the 90s, and most of them could reach Europe, in particular France. That did not happen with other refugee crises. Iraq has two refugee crises, one in the 90s and one in the 2000s. In the 90s, people were fleeing the regime of Saddam Hussein, and many of them could be accommodated in European countries, in particular in Sweden. But in the 2000s, they were fleeing a country that was under American occupation. And most of them did not reach Europe. They were not invited to go to Europe. They were accommodated in neighboring countries, in particular in Jordan and in Syria, but also in other countries like Lebanon and like Egypt. People are not leaving their country because they're trying to cheat with the migration laws in other countries. They flee because they are in an extremely dangerous situation. And where do they go? They go to next door. They don't try to go to a very distant country. They go to next door and they go to where they have a possibility to live. And certainly Europe is not next door for Syrians, and it is not a place where many Syrians have all the connections that they have in Lebanon or in Jordan or in Iraq or in Egypt. And it explains why they go to this country first, not to Europe.